Hi, friends. Welcome to the Well-Crafted Man podcast. I'm Spencer, and this is Nick. This is where we are talking about men's issues, and my specialization is in mental health. Nick is very smart and very well read, so although
Happens to also be a man, right?
and he's a man, and so even though he doesn't specialize in therapy, he has a lot of really good input, and we're hoping to do some good with this. I think the caveat that I want to start with on this episode, which is very serious, depression and anxiety, is that it's important not to self-diagnose. And if you think you are going through something like this, then it's important to talk to a professional who actually can diagnose, because then they can get you the support and the resources that you need. But the first step is getting out the door and actually getting in with a professional. So, depression and anxiety, two horrible things that we all seem to experience from time to time. I've seen a big rise in anxiety with clients, and with COVID and everybody staying at home, depression is through the roof as well. We're social creatures, and I think that good self-care is important in staving off the abyss that is depression. So I think we should get started with a real good clinical definition for both. Um, so depression comes in a lot of different forms, and you can be depressed from a change in circumstances. You lose your house and you just kind of get the blues and they don't go away, and that's depression. Or you get that sort of emptiness where you can't get out of bed in the morning and you just spend the whole day on your phone. It shows up in all kinds of ways, and it's pretty bad either way. The thing that really bothers me when people think they're experts in psychology and they talk about depression is they say that it's a chemical imbalance. But that's a load of crap, because everything is a chemical imbalance. Being hungry is a chemical imbalance. Being happy is a chemical imbalance. It's just like simplifying it that much is so stupid. So take it seriously. It's very complicated, and it's very manageable if you talk to the right people who know how to help. So moving on to anxiety, Nick, I hope you don't mind. I'm steamrolling you on the beginning.
Not at all.
You can talk
Take
later.
it away. Take
We'll
it away.
That beautiful baritone later. So anxiety, it's similar to excitement, in that it's a projection of the future. They're just two sides of the same coin. So excitement is an unfounded joy in the future, but anxiety is an unfounded pain in the future. So in Buddhism, they actually try to avoid both of these things because none of them are living in the present. So anxiety is built off of past experiences where something could have gone wrong, and then you project that onto something that you see coming. So even though the example I use is getting called into the boss's office, even though you could be getting a promotion, you could be getting sent home early, but we immediately default to, oh, I'm getting fired. I'm in so much trouble, because that's how we're wired. We're wired to defend ourselves. So that's kind of my working layman definition of those two disorders. Did any of that resonate with you, Nick?
Oh, absolutely. When you said anxiety is similar to excitement, in which we are placing emotion on the future, that certainly resonated with me. I never thought about it like that. But yeah, that's the total truth, man. The thing about anxiety, for me anyway, like on a personal level, is it's always been so very ambiguous. And only recently in my life have I been able to start recognizing anxiety, like when it comes up, and the litany of triggers that will make it come up. I'm kind of on this new frontier with it personally. But yeah, it is absolutely a prediction of something maleficent or maybe not even that bad, just, just something that you are not looking forward to,
Yeah.
And I think that definition was awesome. That kind of helped me a lot, like in that moment when I heard you say it. Uh,
Listeners, if you didn't see our first episode, I did warn that we would just be unpacking our own problems onto the internet, and I think holding through
That's part of it.
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, like, yeah, you can't really show anybody anything if you can't relate to them.
I think everybody's felt anxious about something in their lives.
Absolutely, especially under that definition. Excitement can flip into anxiety really quick. Like when we were going to Elitch's, this is like years ago when I was kids. My little sister Gabby was like super gung ho for super gung ho for the boomerang, and the boomerang. It's a roller coaster. Anyway, we wait in line for like an hour or something like that, and she's all excited and whatever, and we're like one ride away from getting on it, and all of that excitement completely shifts into horrible anxiety.
Oh no.
And then she broke down, and she's crying and freaking out, and my older sister is trying to get her on the ride because it's our turn, and she's clinging on to the railing, screaming no, no. And my sister's trying to pull her onto the thing, saying just go across and you can wait on the other side for us. But the anxiety completely enveloped her.
100%.
Oh man, that's hilarious. I haven't thought about that in a while.
That's because because we tell stories.
Yeah, I can get on that level with anything all the time. Understanding where this anxiety comes from, I think, is very important in moving past it. And for me, your boss example helps out a lot. But like, dude, like anxiety comes up all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. It's an everyday thing. It's just part of life, I think.
There's different schools of thought for how to handle it. Actually, we'll talk about that later. My issue that I'm running into personally is this navigating at what feels like a very razor thin edge of following the Buddhist principles of living 100% in the moment and savoring the moment, and keeping that from going flat and going into a sort of light depression. Like when you look at it on the surface, Buddhism is very depressed sounding, where they're like, don't get too excited, don't get anxious, life is suffering, so if I'm like, okay, I'm trying not to get too excited about something in the future, but then that almost feeds into like dysthymic depression. Where it's
I get that.
I'm not going to let myself get excited for this. My example that I think of, and I think about this all the time, was, what was that Christopher Nolan movie where they go to space?
I'm not good with movies and actors, man.
It's going to bother me.
But I feel where you're going with that, like with the Buddhist principle, staying in the moment, not getting excited for the future and all that. Because I feel a very similar way, but from what was the movie?
Interstellar.
Never watched it.
Finish your thought.
I feel the same way, just with a different school of thought. I really resonate with Stoicism, and that's really how I go through my entire life.
What are some of the basic tenets of Stoicism?
Well, the one that I rule with is the principle of what lies in your control. And Stoics, they deviate everything in the world on what they can control and what they can't control. And then what holds that up is the idea that nothing precedes the mind. So we create our own experiences in life, no matter what happens to you. Uh, Unpleasant things happen to everybody. Nobody, not a single human being in this world, is omitted from the universal law of things changing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the world. And so, what can you control and what can you not control? You cannot control that change will happen, but you can absolutely control how you feel about it. And
Yeah. 100%.
so, Stoics don't look towards the future at all either.
Yeah.
Similar to Buddhists, they stay right here. What's happening right
The
now?
only thing I know about Stoicism is that they say, like, don't suffer, take action. And that resonates with the male experience, I feel like.
Yeah, take action, and take that action, like I guess objectively.
Mhm.
I didn't want to say the word impersonally, but yeah, kind of impersonally. Stoics really try to remove emotion from the equation,
Well, that's
and it is tough. And
everything I've learned in counseling is that you can't do that.
no, I mean, you shouldn't. It's not entirely healthy, um, and you can't you can't I don't think you can divorce the idea of making proper decisions from emotion. They come from the same part of the brain.
Yeah.
Your emotion and the part of your brain that makes decisions are the same part. It's your limbic system. um,
No, they're not.
they're not.
No, I gotta stop you there. Um, limbic system is our amygdala, which is our emotional core of our brain, and decisions come from the prefrontal cortex. But they do fire together.
The prefrontal cortex is where logic comes from.
Yeah.
Yes, and where language comes from.
Yeah.
So yes, they go hand in hand. But are you familiar? You're familiar with the phrase "a gut feeling"?
Yeah.
Yeah, a gut feeling, a gut decision. That's your limbic system making that decision.
Yeah, it's they do go hand in hand, and it's interesting to, like, a big thing that we deal with is how often people are ruled by their emotions when they don't think they are. When you're repressing some feeling, some anger, something, um, it's still controlling you, even though you think that you're pushing it away and you've defeated it. You haven't. So they do, like I said, they do fire together a lot. And distinguishing the two, that's actually where mindfulness comes in, which I'm obviously a big proponent of. Um, it allows you to separate the two on like on a synaptic scale. It's fascinating stuff. But yeah, so I'm with you there. I think we're saying the same thing, but in different ways.
Well, I mean, like I don't want to lead anybody astray with improper information, so I'll yield to the professional. Um, I'm only here because I happen to have the right piece to say that I'm a man.
No, you're right. Like I said, we're saying just the same thing. Like there's it's kind of interesting. We'll talk about this in the anger episode more, but there's a switch that flips when we're triggered, that we go from functioning in our prefrontal cortex to functioning in our amygdala and in our limbic system. Um, and for some people that switch is huge, and some people it isn't. It's called the window of tolerance, and it's like everything inside the window you can handle, uh, like you're having a conversation. But then as soon as you leave that window of tolerance, your prefrontal cortex is no longer in control, and you're 100% limbic, which means you're being ruled by fight, flight, freeze. So this is a problem that we run into with couples, because once you break that window, your brain views that person as your enemy, and we are designed to destroy our enemies 100%. So if you're fighting over something stupid like the thermostat, and you end up screaming at each other because you break that window, and then suddenly you're just like, you're out of control. And
God.
so a big trick with couples is to like know when to walk away. You're like, I'm getting dysregulated, I need to leave. You got to get back into your body, back into your prefrontal cortex.
That's awesome. I never knew that.
Oh yeah, it's happens all the time. All
I
the
can think of many times that I've kind of been in that area.
Oh yeah, it happens to all of us. It's all, and none of this is bad. It's just a part of kind of what it means to be human. So now I want to get back to my Interstellar story. This is backpedaling a little bit, but I love this story because it changed my life. Uh, Previews for Interstellar came out 2012, 2013, something like that. And when I saw the preview in the theater, and I was like, this is the coolest looking movie I've ever seen in my life. I'm so excited for this. This is so cool. This is amazing. This movie is going to be outstanding. And then I go see the movie, and the movie is stupid. It was so dumb. It was Matthew McConaughey saying Murph for 2 hours. It was awful.
Murph?
Murph. It's love, Murph. It's the power of love. Transcends space and time. So stupid. I'm upset just thinking about it. And I was genuinely really excited for this movie. So that's the basis of what caused me to resonate with Buddha's principles of not letting yourself get too excited. Stay in the present.
It came from that shitty movie.
Movie.
Hey man, that's a fun way to get into it.
It
I got
was
into
a
Stoicism.
terrible movie. So
I got in not because of a movie or Interstellar. I didn't even know what Interstellar was about. So thank you for warning me.
It was about Matthew McConaughey transcending space and time with the power of love.
Do you have any space weed, man? It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Be a lot cooler if you did.
Were they like going to Mars or something like that?
They found a portal behind Jupiter or something. I don't know. It was really bad though. Like 2 hours to just say Murph.
You know what I love about Jupiter girls? A year in Jupiter is like 900 years on Earth. That's a stupid joke.
So, getting out of it, moving back into anxiety and depression.
Of course, yeah. Why we're here and what we're talking about.
What we're talking about it. So the problem with anxiety and depression, the way I see it, the way I frame it personally, and that helps me work with clients, is that I really like looking at evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology. And it's almost like our brains are tricking us into thinking that we're under attack when we aren't. So you're gonna do behaviors that your brain thinks are good for you, but aren't. So 10,000 years ago, or however old humans are, if you're religious, then 500 years ago in Dallas, Texas, when you were a caveman, and you thought you were under attack, you would like hide in a cave and protect yourself and eat carbs so that you could survive the winter and survive the siege of the animals and things. But that doesn't serve us anymore. So you stay in bed all day and try and distract yourself, and you overeat food that's bad for you. And so people think that like, oh, if you're depressed, all you have to do is start running and eating right and you'll feel better. But the difficulty there is that you can't make that first step towards that because you're stuck in this cycle of misery. So breaking out of that is really tough to do. And there's a couple schools on how to handle that. The way that I was trained was that you look at sort of childhood and your past experiences and think how they're affecting you in the present. Because goes, and then the symptoms just evaporate, which I have seen happen. It's pretty cool.
So would you say that's like one of the first steps people need to take to get out of their cave?
I think the first thing that people need to do, but not the problem that we run into is the only thing that they need to do. The first thing you need to do is read a fantastic book called Feeling Good. It was written in, I want to say the 70s. And it was the first cognitive therapy, and that's the second school of thought. And Feeling good is cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's brilliant, but it's not quite enough. So the idea behind it is that it's this triangle, and it's your actions and your thoughts and your feelings. The way that you think about something affects how you feel about something, which affects how you act about something. So if your pet dies and you keep thinking about how horrible life is without your pet, then you're going to feel terrible. And then that's going to cause you to act like a depressed person would act. And you're going to go into your cave. And that cycle is going to continue, and it's going to spiral downwards. So CBT uses techniques and cognitions to interrupt that process. Now, the strength in CBT is that it works very, very quickly. Most people report symptom relief within a few weeks. Like
CBT, just to clarify, that's cognitive behavior therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy.
You got it.
Gotcha.
It's great. It's amazing, and it's symptom relief like almost immediately. The guy that wrote it, I can't remember his name. When he first wrote it, they had a backlog of patients at his university hospital he was working at, and so they said, "Well, we can't take you right now, but read this book that we just wrote." And then something like 70% of the people who read the book would cancel their appointments. Is your cat there?
Yeah, dude.
I love Helen. Show Helen to the internet.
Helen, you want to be famous? You're going to be seen by, I don't know, maybe a couple friends of ours, and that's it.
Dozens of people. Oh, she's so cute.
Dozens at best. Melons.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, Melons. We're talking about cognitive behavioral therapy. I think you could use that.
Yes, she needs it. So CBT essentially interrupts this process and interrupts that spiral so that you're no longer spiraling downward, and then you can pause and reflect and move into sort of the future. So the issue with CBT is that it doesn't, there's a lot of money around its research, which is great, but it's not considered, like, it's hard to outthink your emotions. So it isn't super sustainable for, in my opinion, isn't super sustainable for long-term and for overcoming things, which is where my kind of training came in, where you really dig into what's causing the issues in the first place and then come to terms with them into the future.
So cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of mindfulness in that, right?
It's moving that way. Most counseling, actually, modern counseling is moving towards mindfulness, which is why I chose the program, the mindfulness program that I went to, because everything's moving that direction anyway. Because
mindfulness has been amazing. I think that's definitely something that everybody should be,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for me, it's been fantastic. It's changed my life, really, being mindful and understanding myself. And I was a Stoic before I was, practicing mindfulness, and the marriage of the two has been pretty awesome.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Because, like, I think earlier I mentioned, Stoicism kind of like eliminates emotion. That's not entirely true, but that's kind of how I've been taking it. Like the most famous Stoic in the whole wide world, Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
He definitely seems robotic in his meditations when you read them, at least my interpretation of that. And also to add to that, in another book, I'm drawing a blank. That's going to kill me now, because that was a good reference that I wanted to bring up. Anyway, in another book that I read, because I'm just the smartest dude in the whole wide world, the author wrote about how eliminating emotion allowed him to continue to succeed. It kept him on track, because when something came up that jeopardized his entire business, he did not wallow in the fact that his business was being jeopardized. He just handled it.
Yeah.
And I really like that thought. So that with stoicism made me kind of, robotic.
Mm.
And then introducing mindfulness into that kind of unraveled it. But it unraveled it and then retied it in this amazing knot of emotion that moves me forward.
Mm.
And I think that could, based on the definition I just got from you, and I mean, cognitive behavioral theory or therapy, I think that kind of falls in with that. And it was very helpful for me to remove myself from this high functioning depressive state.
Mm.
I was like, I could still do my life, but I had this underlying perpetual misery that never went away. And
And I'm guessing that you pushed it away.
yeah, I mean, not entirely, it's not like a switch
Yeah.
you just flip, but it's a gradual, like, wearing down. Like if it's a giant rock, is, you would say, this giant boulder is your depression that is holding you down, and your mindfulness practices, and for me, stoicism, or is the water that washes over it continuously and weathers it down slowly over time.
It's a good metaphor. In a safe environment with a counselor or guru or priest or whomever is trained to handle it, you could try and do that quickly.
That's what confession is, right? In religion.
I mean,
kinda.
Yes, kinda. I don't know.
Kinda.
I've never really put that much thought into that, but what's interesting is when you're working with clients, or when counselors are working with clients, as soon as people, and I'm not saying that people should do this because this is working with a professional, I am a professional, is
I am not.
instead of just trying to feel better like we always do, where we're like, we try and shove it down and just don't worry about it, we instead, in a safe way, we turn and we look into it and we push into it, and then a lot of times it just evaporates.
Absolutely. That's the power of facing your monster.
Yeah.
How can you make your life better? By acknowledging the things that make it undesirable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting
Is that the proper word?
Discomfort. Facing your demons. Yeah. It's very difficult to do, and it's a very brave thing to do. But once you do, things don't have as much of a hold over you. Granted, this is very simple. Humans are extremely complicated.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the most dumbed down version.
Yeah. There was a book on overcoming the fear of death called Staring at the Sun, because
sounds like fun.
Staring at the sun is super uncomfortable, but I always felt like it was like, if you stare at the sun, that you will die.
the day star. No.
Damn you, star!
Oh no. Got too excited. That sounds like fun. That other book you mentioned, definitely need to write that down. The one that you said was written in the 70s about cognitive behavioral theory.
Feeling Good. It's incredible.
Feeling Good. All right.
I think you would resonate with that one. It's very simple. I mean, there's a lot of pieces to remember, but it's something I said last week resonated with you from that, and I can't. Oh, magical thinking. They have like these 10 pieces of things that people do to lie to themselves.
Gosh, I bought a book on thrift books today. I should have added those ones into it. I could have gotten free shipping.
Yeah, you can get.
Darn it.
Feeling good for super cheap.
Thrift Books, give us a sponsorship. Do you
Thrift
guys do
Books.
that?
I'm an
Do you do that?
Illuminati tier. I buy so many books from you.
Yeah, we're your best
Give me
customers.
money.
Or just
Give me
give us a pile
money.
of free books.
And free books and free shipping. Yeah, so there's like these cognition fallacies that we go through that it's just we're just lying to ourselves, like magical thinking. Another one that I see it in a lot of people is all or nothing thinking. Like, oh, I stubbed my toe. This is the worst day in the history of days. You know,
Dude, I know so many people who have that.
all the time,
Man,
all the
all
time.
the time.
And it's like these things combine to essentially we're creating our own version of reality. It doesn't actually exist. Just because you stub your
Absolutely.
toe does not mean that the world is ending today. It just means that you stub your toe. And returning, like I think what you were saying with stoicism, like returning to what reality is,
Yeah,
not letting these emotions drive us is the key to success.
absolutely. Nothing precedes the mind. You create your experiences, acknowledge what happened to you, and think about it for a second. Stubbing your toe is not the worst thing in the whole wide world.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're depressed and when we're anxious, there are pathways out of it. No one route is better for each person, but there are ways out of it. The issue with suicide a lot of times is that people feel like there isn't a way out. Like it's going to be like this forever, which with a lot of people, I don't blame them for feeling that way. They struggle with this kind of stuff their whole lives and they're sick of it and they just want that pain to be gone. It's horrible. And they don't see that there's a whole nother world outside of that stubbed toe, outside of that depression. There's a whole experience that their brains physically can't acknowledge it. So feeling good or CBT just gets you out of that state. And then more emotional therapies get you into a more stable place for long term. So if you are depressed, if you are anxious, there are ways out. Reach out, get someone to help you, anyone you can. Just talk to a friend if you can't afford a therapist. Just do it.
Or, if nobody else is around, you can find affordable literature on thriftbooks.com and get yourself feeling good by
thriftbooks.com, the most thrifty bookstore on the internet.
Give us free books. But anyway, jokes aside, learn about cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah. It is not the end, but in the moment, sure feels that way.
Sure.
Anyone who's been depressed will tell you. Yeah,
I mean, been there, right? Like try not to.
Had a panic attack?
Not in a very, very long time, but yeah, debilitating.
Horrible. I thought I was gonna die.
Oh yeah, and then for me, when I came out of it, it was like, why did that happen? It felt so irrational.
Did you feel better afterwards? Like, did you feel like good
after it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, yeah, kind of like how I felt good when shingles was done. Like it's when you're experiencing a ton of discomfort, it feels really good when it's over. Relief is amazing. It's kind of why I chase pain and discomfort and because I know when it's over, I'm going to feel amazing. I overtrain like a son of a gun because it just hurts so good. When I had my shingles, like I didn't know what shingles was when I had shingles. And just for some insight, the shingles started here and went across my face and got into my eye, and then was bilateral shingles, which is super rare, and then crossed over into my other eye. And it infected my trigeminal nerve, which is a nerve that runs across your head. There's 3 parts of it, and it felt like my head was being peeled open for 7 days until I got to go to my primary care doctor, and my primary care doctor saw me for like 2 minutes and said, go to the ER immediately. And I went to the ER and I got doped up. And then this 10 out of 10 pain that I had for 7 days straight disappeared because of the meds, and the relief was amazing. But God, did I miss that pain? It
Mm.
was exhilarating to just to be in so much pain for so long.
What do
It's
you
pretty
think you were
nuts,
getting out
man.
of it?
What did I think? What?
What were you getting out of that, having that pain?
Um, so I enjoy pain, um, I guess more than most people, mostly because I know relief comes after. Nothing's forever. And no matter what happens to you in your life, really, and no matter what happens to you in your life, you're always going to be in some level of okay. And I was okay. We live in the future. That would have killed somebody back then, but we're here in the future. Like
Mm.
I was going to be fine no matter what. Um, so I think pain is almost like, like I don't want to say like an intense drug trip, but
Sounds
similar. It's similar.
sounds like that's how you view it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you ride it out and then you come out of it and you're like, wow, that was nuts, right? Like, that's how I take it anyway. And nothing's going to hurt more than that. That was crazy. Nothing's
Yeah,
hurt more than
totally.
that.
Yeah.
Chase it in the gym, though. I almost killed myself on a bench not too long ago.
Just like letting the bar fall on you or what?
Well, yeah, it just started kind of coming down, and I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah, and like there's nobody there to help me, you know. Just kind of try and get it to a point where you can weasel your way out of it.
Like lean it to the side or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, that okay. For anybody who goes to the gym a lot and is worried about killing themselves, if that starts happening, let one side go faster than the other, and then you can tuck and roll.
There you go.
There you go. That came with experience because that was not my first time in that situation.
That was intense. Hey Nick, how do people get to a state of feeling anxious?
Well, anxiety is an amazing beast. It's multifaceted. It can come about in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of things that can trigger anxiety. Mindfulness techniques is the first place to start to acknowledging anxiety because you're going to feel it in your body first. For me, I feel anxiety somewhere around here in my heart, like not like on my heart, but a little bit in the center, and it can be triggered from a litany of different things. What you have stress in a relationship, you have stress at work, you have stress anywhere that stress exists. I've got my schoolwork to do. I'm getting crushed in school. I have this assignment due tonight. I haven't even started. Anxiety. You're at work. You've been working really hard, but you messed something up, and the boss found out about that, and he's going to say something to you in the future. That's anxiety. You're in a relationship, and it's not going the way you want it to go, and you need to talk to the other person about that. Anxiety, and I think you touched on it earlier. It's putting emotion towards something that hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
and none of those things have happened yet, but you're anticipating them to be bad, and that's where your anxiety comes from. And those are just three small examples, but if you don't acknowledge that, I think for me personally anyway, it's easy to fall into a state of self-imposed misery and make that stuff worse,
Yeah.
because it's going to be bad anyway, and it's kind of reckless behavior to go into it with a worse kind of mindset, like doubling down on the emotion.
Feeding it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a personal journey to acknowledge that that's happening, and then do what you need to do to not make it any more miserable for yourself than what it already is going to be. And part of that is, is understanding that you can't predict the future, and it's probably not going to be as bad as you think it is, because we suffer a whole lot more in our imagination than we do in reality. And yeah, you just acknowledge that and move into the unknown with a better mindset than doubling down on that misery. What can you do to make it better than what it already is? Or rather, how can you not do the things to make it worse? Like if you don't do things to make it worse, how good could it be?
That's a good starting point. Yeah. How can I not make this worse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit of a jumble of words there, but that's kind of where I was getting at. Because, unpleasant things happen to everybody. No one is immune to change. No one is immune to unpleasant situations.
Yep.
But we always have the power to get through that. We can make opinions, we can make judgments, and we can act on all of that. Nothing precedes the mind. You create your own experience.
Yeah. Well said. On the flip side of that coin, when you say we create our own experience, we always go with the easier path, humans. This is just the way our brains work. And a lot of times the easier path is just simply the path that we already know, even if it's bad for us. So a lot of anxiety and a lot of phobias and a lot of fears and pain come from things that we've already experienced that our brain has decided is the best path that we have moving forward. So things that trigger us for anger or depression or anxiety is something that happened to us when we were young. We could have a teacher who was a little bit too strict or, had some instability with our parents as a kid, and that comes out as an adult in anxious ways. My parents, when I was a kid, got divorced, and my stepdad was very strict when he came into the picture, and my dad was very bad with respecting boundaries. And as a result, my entire adult life, I've had issues around male authority figures. And it's something that I had no idea that this was something that was going on with me until I got into counseling, until I got into psychology. But it's an emotion that controlled me my entire life. I had no idea. But I was always afraid of male authority figures, always. It was a huge source of anxiety for me.
That's fascinating.
Going into the office thing, like if I got a male boss, I'm like, I walk in there and I'm like, I'm in so much trouble. I'm in so much trouble. I am screwed. But then once I learned how to do parts work, which is, again, a professional's thing, like don't do this for yourself, where I learned to negotiate these pieces of myself in real time, I kind of learned where they came from, and you kind of come to terms with it. And once you do, the anxiety and the fear and the trauma just sort of like evaporate out of your life. And intellectually that it's still there, but the emotional power, it doesn't have the same emotional power over you, which is why therapy works.
That's awesome. It's I don't want to say funny. I think that's too simple and not entirely accurate, but it is interesting how your fear of male authority dictated your life, yet you ended up in the military, where that's all that exists.
Yeah. I think it was me really trying to take control of that without knowing that that's what I was trying to do. And of course it didn't work. It was horrible. It was like, I hated every minute of it, but the military is like the most toxic place on the planet anyway. So there's that. But yeah.
It's very insightful.
Yep, that's why I make the big bucks.
Mm-hmm. Misery is rooted in fear, everybody.
I would say that misery is fear. Misery is pain that we perpetuate upon ourselves. Everyone suffers pain, but not everyone suffers. Suffering is that thought cycle that we get into.
Mm-hmm. Self-imposed misery.
Like you said earlier, it's not so much what happens to us. The important part is how we think about what happens to us.
Absolutely.
Changes everything. Hey, one more thing before we go. I decided to put on my thinking cap. And I think it's important to note that the things that we talk about in this podcast and videos, it's not intended to diagnose or treat any mental disorders or mental angst that you're going through. And it's really important to reach out to professionals when you feel like you are in an unsafe space or when you feel like you're kind of stuck in a rut. There's no shame in getting help. There's a lot of counselors out there that will do sliding scale payments. So you don't have to pay their full rate, and they'll be able to work with you if you can't afford their full rate. Or there's the National Crisis Hotline, which I have here. It's 800-273-8255. It's 800-273-8255, and give them a call, and they can work with you if you're going through crisis. There's people that are trained to help. They're really good. And if it's an emergency, if you're not feeling safe, then you need to get help. Call 911. Get somebody there that can help you. For real, there's no shame in reaching out for help. It's really important. So thanks for listening. Take care, everybody. Talk to you later.